Hello, political animals. Welcome and welcome back to my YouTube channel. I am Sondia, a third-year political science student at Central Mindanao University. And this is Parliamentary Procedure 101 with Sondia. In today's video, we are going to tackle about the nature and classifications of motions. But before that, what is a motion? A motion is the procedure required by the parliamentary law for the transaction of business in a deliberative assembly. It is a formal proposal that the assembly either adopt a certain view or take a certain action on a question pending before it. It is a very important tool to all the members of the parliament to raise issues on public and national importance. Therefore, it is a very effective way of keeping contrasting views. A motion is identified by the preparatory prose, I move that, which is equivalent of saying, I propose that. Now, what is the difference between a motion and a resolution? A motion is a proposal from the member of the meeting, whereas a resolution reflects the general opinion of the board. Generally speaking, a motion is made in verbal form, while a resolution is written down and recorded. However, if a motion is of great importance or it is lengthy and complex, it should be written down in a form of a resolution. However, not all motions can be resolutions, but all resolutions are motions. Now, let's move on to the most important part of my report, which is the classifications of motions. There are four types of motions. First is the main motion, second, subsidiary motions, third, privileged motions, and fourth, incidental motion. The first type of motions is the main motion, which is divided into two, general main motion and specific main motion. A general main motion, this motion are certain ideas or subjects that are introduced or proposed to the assembly to consider and vote on. This type of main motion may be presented orally or writing in the form of a resolution. This requires only a majority vote. General main motion follows the fundamental parliamentary principle of one subject at a time. A general main motion can be proposed only when there is no other business before the assembly. Next is the specific main motion. Unlike the general motion that requires a majority vote, certain specific motion only requires 2/3 of the vote. Specific main motions are not debatable and some may be proposed even if someone has the floor. One basic difference between the general main motion and specific main motion is that the consideration of the subject can be prevented by a 2/3 of vote supporting a motion objecting to the consideration of the main motion, while specific motions cannot be objected to. The specific main motions are to take from the table, to reconsider and have entered on the minutes, to resign, to expunge, to adopt a report, to amend, to adjourn, and to create special orders. Now let's move on to the second type of motion, which is the subsidiary motion. Subsidiary motion is a motion that assists the assembly in treating or disposing of a main motion. This motion is clearly dependent on the main motion, which they may modify or dispose. It is necessary to decide on the subject motion first before any action may be taken on the pending main motion. Subsidiary motions generally require only a majority vote, but to call for the previous question and to modify the limits of debate is not included. Here are the subsidiary motions: to lay on the table, to call for the previous question, to modify the limits of debate, to postpone definitely, to commit or to refer to a committee, to amend, to postpone indefinitely. The third type of motion is privileged motions. A motion to raise a question of privilege is a privilege of motion that permits a request related to the right and privileges of the assembly or any of its members to be brought up. To rise to a question of privilege may be made even if someone has the floor. This motion is allowed to interrupt pending matters to address urgent or important matters without debate. Here are the privileged motions: to fix the time to which to adjourn, to take a recess, to raise a question of privilege, and to call orders for the day. Now, the fourth type of motion is the incidental motions. Incidental motions have no fixed rank, but they take precedence over the question or motion from which they arise, whether the question is main, subsidiary, or privileged. For example, a general main motion and subsidiary motion are pending. If someone rises to ask information about the pending motion, the request should be satisfied first before further discussions on the pending motions. The statement incidental motion take precedence over the question or motion refers only to the particular motion that is legitimately incidental at the time it is made. Incidental motions cannot be amended except when they relate to the division of a question or to the method of voting. Now, here are the incidental motions: to suspend the rules, to withdraw or modify a motion, to object to the consideration of a question, to raise a point of order, to raise a parliamentary inquiry, to raise a point of information, to appeal from the decision of the chair, to call for the division of a question, to read papers, motion relating to the nomination, motions relating to voting.